Hello everyone, hope you guys are doing great. Good morning. This video is for Monday, March 23rd, 2020. Hope you guys have had a great weekend and welcome back. I had a chance to look at some of your questions from over the weekend from the discussion. And from that, I've kind of just come up with a few general class tips for this week. First things first, you're in the right place. If you're watching this video, this is kind of where you're going to come each day to get kind of the notes, we're kind of walking through, as well as directions for the assignment, if there is one for the next day. That being said, due dates. There are a lot of questions about when things are due. As a general rule, 4 p.m. the following day that homework is assigned. So what that means is for today's homework, it's due for second and third period on 4 p.m. Tuesday. For eighth period, we don't meet on Tuesdays normally, so it's your homework for tonight is due 4 p.m. on Wednesday. So remember, assignments not due the day of, but the following day at 4 p.m. So recommend getting started on them, giving you guys a little bit more leeway time because I know that your situation, especially if you have different family or household duties, might cause you to have to get that work done the next day. So again, 4 p.m. the following day assigned. Let me know if there are any questions about that. Each week, based on each of these video lectures, I'm going to be taking your graded notes as well. There's going to be a little bit more direction on how to do that towards the end of this week, but it'll be turned in through Google Classroom. There's an easy way to do it just through taking a picture of your notes through your cell phone. These notes are to be handwritten, and it'll be a part of your grade for this quarter. Just kind of an incentive to make sure you're following along with what I'm introducing during these videos. More on that, on how to turn those in towards the end of this week. Last, again, stick to the St. Michael's schedule for my classwork and deadlines. So what that means is, today is day one class, or Monday. We're all meeting usually today. So again, if you have my class, you're watching this video today. For Monday, you're doing the homework. But again, if you're eighth period, you're not meeting again until Wednesday. That's when the homework is due. That's when you're going to have my class next. That's when you should watch the next video for this week. But for instance, if you're third period, you're Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Don't meet Thursday, but then we meet again Friday. So again, kind of follow each day as you normally would for my class when we've been together at school. Again, if this is kind of a different approach that some other teachers are taking, please let me know through a message, trying to all kind of get on the same page with these things. So let me know if teachers are going about it just a Monday through Thursday approach. If you're finding that's a little bit easier, I'm more than open to hearing your suggestions. So kind of some general class tips. Now, when we had the craziness that was last week, we were talking about the question of origins. What I mean by that is where did everything come from? We are so familiar with the creation account in Genesis chapter 1. God created the universe, creating the plants and animals, and the sun, the moon, the stars. Is that true? Well, if it's true, then how do we reconcile it with science? Because we know from science that, there's these things called evolution. We know that the world is much older than the Bible seems to tell us. How can we believe in evolution and creation at the same time? So that's kind of what we're looking at the moment. We also, and this is kind of a brief review, so we want to be able to say that we believe in Genesis 1, in an intelligent designer, that the Bible is the Word of God, and also believe everything that science has discovered, such as the Earth being 4.5 billion years old, and the likely truth that human life has evolved to its present state. Okay, so how do we reconcile those two statements? Well, we know one wrong approach, just a brief review, is called creationism, the view that basically evolutionary theory is not true. Man didn't develop, but rather spontaneously appeared sometime around 6,000 years ago. And we get that from the Bible. And thus the earth was created in 6 literal 24-hour periods. Now, there are a lot of problems with that approach. One of them being, if you take Genesis 1 literally, you get a world that kind of looks like this. This doesn't really look like that lovely globe that we know and love so much, with the universe and the sun revolving with orbits. We don't have an ocean above the world. Like, there are so many problems with taking Genesis 1 literally, let alone believing that the earth is 6,000 years old. So what does that mean for our purposes? We talked about this again the week before the last one. Basically, a review that, remember, the Bible's not intended to be a scientific document, but rather a theological one. That's from Pope Pius XII in his document back in the 1940s, so way before modern times and the amazing things that the Human Genome Project has discovered. He basically said, look, if we're looking for scientific truth in here, we're looking at the wrong type of document, because Genesis is clearly not written to be a scientific text. But we also want to say that there are truths in Genesis 1. There are a lot of deep truths if we read it with the right lens, because Genesis 1 is a spiritual, poetic, almost kind of an epic account of creation stories. And it also was written to combat other creation stories at the time, such as the world was created through an act of violence. Genesis speaks of this nonviolent, peaceful words of God just simply speaking and things coming into existence. We hear the creation of the sun, the moon, the stars, and these not being gods, but rather of one God who is Lord over them all. Again, if you're reading this when it was written, you would know that this account was written to tell people that, look, these false gods you're worshiping, the sun, moon, or the sun god, the moon god, the god of the earth, or animals, etc. These aren't gods. Rather, there is one God. Again, so it's kind of going against polytheistic creation narratives. And then last and most importantly, that creation is good and not evil. That would have been a fundamental shift of mindset, that the world wasn't created from an evil purpose or an evil intent, but rather that everything God made, as we read in Genesis 1, is good, and that human beings aren't these random or accidental creations of these gods, and that human beings are evil or purposeless, but rather we're very important. And in fact, we're very good, again, as Genesis 1 reiterates. So it's not as if we should toss out Genesis chapter 1 just because it doesn't give us a true literal account of the creation of everything, but we need to look at it through a more theological lens. Okay, so that was kind of my purpose behind that. So if you're still with me, if we back up for a moment, we kind of look at why this maybe isn't the best option, viewing things through a creationist perspective, for all the problems mentioned here. But what about this view over here? Okay, we looked at evolutionism. And evolutionism, if you remember, is kind of a combination of three worldviews: reductionism, materialism, and chance. So you're familiar with the worldview called materialism. It's basically the simple idea that everything we see around us, there's nothing beyond it that exists. So there's nothing more than matter, space, and time. And anything that's within beyond those things just simply doesn't exist. So no such thing as the soul, no such thing as anything spiritual. That's part of the view. And it's easy to believe that if you believe in evolution and take on this materialistic worldview. Because of that, it's easy to see that the only cause of everything is just this meaningless construction of atoms that came about from sheer chance. Also, part of an evolutionist worldview is this idea called reductionism. So everything you do in this world is explainable by your scientific makeup, your brain chemistry, maybe even your psychology, and everything you do is ultimately explainable by that. Because, again, you're made of matter. There's nothing important or spiritual about you. And then last, chance. A huge part of debate, and we're going to kind of get into this for class tomorrow, is through micro, which is small scale, and macro, which is big scale evolution. We're here just by accident. We're a happy chance occurrence in a universe of infinite possibilities. So what that means is, really, if you think about it, if there's no God behind it all, which is what evolutionism proposes, then everything is explainable by chance processes, and what you do doesn't matter. You don't have a soul. Human existence is purely explainable by biology. Okay, and so this is kind of why an evolutionist who believes rightly in what science teaches on evolution, this is where they kind of take it too far. Because the moment we say that your humanity is explainable by biology, or there's nothing different from you and the animals, that's when we start to kind of get onto theological and philosophical grounds. And then everything being explainable by chance processes. If we really process those worldviews and look at what they mean for human life, the purpose of life, you really start to get into some dark territory. Because if you think about it, and we did this a couple weeks ago, what does that mean for ethics? Well, it doesn't really matter what I do because everything's here by a process of chance. Or how would you explain human love? Well, it's just this sexual compulsion or inclination that I have because of my animal nature and my brain chemistry. Imagine telling that to your loved one and then kind of thinking, oh, that's nice. That makes me feel like nothing is very special about what we have at all. So the more we look at the ramifications for ethics and for our personal lives, the more we kind of see that evolutionism doesn't seem quite to be the most fulfilling answer. So the purpose of kind of the last part of this video is to show you kind of where we're headed, because if you can't tell at this point, we want to find a blend of a view that accommodates theology but doesn't go all the way to tossing out anything that science teaches, but also not accommodating what science teaches, but not to the extent that taking on these views with all of the negative repercussions for morals and for ethics and for what it means to have a meaningful life. So what's kind of the answer? So we want to bridge the gap between evolutionary theory and Catholic theology. Well, for your homework, you're going to kind of learn about the three, I just call them mistaken assumptions that create the gap between faith and evolutionary theory. So the first is that chance is incompatible with divine providence. So we say a huge part of evolution is chance occurrences that have gotten us to where we are. Well, how does that work with the God that the Christians claim, a God who is Lord over everything, who is ultimately guiding all things? That doesn't seem to go well together. A huge part of evolutionary theory as well is the idea of natural selection, this idea that certain creatures have been developed simply because the way that they've been developing, the outcomes are determined by these processes that deem to be the most fit for nature. So this natural selection, it seems like nature develops itself. It doesn't seem like God really has a purpose or a design within it. It just seems like nature is developing on its own. And then last, natural explanations. Natural explanations, if we can find a scientific explanation for something, why do we need to explain everything within the context of God being an involved creator? Why can't he just be this removed God who's letting nature develop itself? So there's a lot of questions within this gap between theology and evolutionary theory. But part of your assignment is to get to know a little bit more. Sorry, that was the wrong tab there. About, let's see where the assignment is. So when you go into Classroom, look at classwork, you're going to see this tomorrow morning. So you have 3 tasks for tomorrow. One of them is a short survey. There's a random selection of 5 quotes about chance that you're going to, just a short survey. There's no right or wrong. Just click the correct answer that you think. I think you'll find it interesting what some theologians say about chance compared to what maybe a few non-theologians or scientists might say about chance. So do that and then complete the assignment, which is pretty short. You're going to watch a short clip on how a roulette table is made, and then you're going to research a little bit about how the game of roulette works and how it's set up and played. And you're going to summarize a little bit about that. And then secondly is kind of a thought puzzle regarding Harry Potter. So if you have any questions about that, I'm going to be available today at 11 a.m. Via Zoom. This assignment will be posted by the time you watch this video, so you'll be able to see it. Here's the link to my Zoom call. Again, 11 a.m. Central Time, Mondays and Wednesdays. Just click this link. You got to have the software set up for Zoom in the first place. But that is all I have for you guys today. Again, this is day 1, and hope you guys have had a great weekend. Shoot me a message if you have any questions, and we will continue on and kind of look a little bit more this week at the Catholic position, if you could call it, on theology, creation, compared to Darwinian evolution and scientific theory. Okay. Have a great day, guys.